In the quiet moments of life, when the world seems still and your heart is heavy with unspoken emotions, there comes a stirring, a subtle but undeniable feeling that someone you have loved deeply, someone whose presence you once took for granted but who has now passed from this world, is attempting to reach out to you. Not in the ordinary way of memory or dream, but in a divine, unmistakable manner that carries with it both warning and guidance, a message that is both urgent and comforting. And it is in this moment, my beloved child, that you must pause and listen, for God Himself is orchestrating a communication that transcends the limits of time and space, and it is meant to awaken you to the truths that are about to unfold in your life. The spirit of a family member who has passed away is not returning to cause fear, nor are they seeking to disturb the natural order of your life, but they are coming as instruments of divine instruction, vessels through which the Lord seeks to deliver a message of caution, encouragement, or revelation. And their appearance in your dreams, your waking thoughts, or through inexplicable signs in your daily environment should not be ignored. For these are not mere coincidences but divine interventions designed to redirect your steps, to illuminate paths that you might have overlooked, and to warn you of dangers or decisions that may lead you astray if not heeded with the seriousness they deserve. It is essential, therefore, to recognize that these encounters, whether subtle as a whisper in your heart or dramatic as a vision that shakes your very being, are infused with spiritual significance. And the God of heaven, who knows the secrets of your heart and the trajectory of your life, is using what was once familiar, what was once flesh and blood, to penetrate the veil of your current existence and remind you that life is fleeting, time is precious, and the choices you make in every moment carry weight far beyond what the eye can see. And as you encounter these signs, you must remember to approach them not with fear, but with reverence, prayer, and a willingness to act on the guidance that is being imparted. The family member who is visiting you from the realm of the departed may manifest in dreams where their face is clear, their voice is distinct, and the message they bring is laden with urgency. Or they may appear in waking life as sudden recollections, a feeling of a familiar presence, or through seemingly miraculous coincidences that cannot be explained by logic or reason alone. And it is in these moments that you must be spiritually awake, discerning the voice of the divine from mere imagination. For God often uses what is closest to you, what is most trusted, to deliver warnings that your soul needs to hear. You may feel a mixture of fear and hope, a trembling in your spirit that comes from knowing that the veil between life and death is thin at certain times, and that the presence of someone who has left this earthly existence is not a trivial matter, but a divine appointment, a sacred moment in which heaven itself seeks to communicate with you, warning you of potential pitfalls, urging you to embrace reconciliation with those you love, reminding you to prioritize what is eternal over what is temporal, and even revealing hidden truths about your current circumstances that, if ignored, could lead to sorrow or regret, but if embraced, could lead to healing, protection, and blessings beyond your imagination. It is also important to understand that these visitations are not random, but are prompted by a combination of your own spiritual readiness, the divine timing of God's plan, and the particular purpose of the departed loved one in carrying a message that is unique to your situation. And therefore, if you feel a presence, hear a voice in your heart, or sense the unmistakable touch of a spirit you know and love, you must not dismiss it as mere memory or fantasy. For it is in the obedience to these subtle urgings that you will find protection, guidance, and insight into decisions that affect not only your present, but the trajectory of your entire future. God, in His infinite wisdom and love, understands the human tendency to doubt, to rationalize, to dismiss the extraordinary. But He calls you, beloved child, to exercise spiritual discernment, to seek Him in prayer and meditation, to open your heart fully to His guidance, and to trust that the messages conveyed through the one who has passed are in alignment with His holy will. carrying divine insight, warnings of impending challenges, or instructions that will steer you away from harm, strengthen your faith, and prepare you for blessings that you cannot yet see, but that are already being orchestrated in the unseen realm. These messages may come clothed in symbolism, in repeated numbers, in sudden visions of light, in smells, sounds, or even through the unexpected words of friends and strangers who seem to know your heart. And the key to understanding them lies in patience, spiritual sensitivity, and a willingness to act. For God rarely sends warnings that are meant to be ignored, and the difference between heeding these divine interventions and dismissing them can be the difference between encountering unnecessary trials and walking safely into the promises He has prepared for you. As you navigate these encounters, know that fear has no power when anchored in faith, that the presence of a loved one who has passed is meant to strengthen, not frighten, and that the messages brought to you are always imbued with divine love, aiming to guide your heart, illuminate your mind, and prepare your soul for what lies ahead. And while the natural mind may struggle to comprehend, the spiritual heart knows, discerns, and responds. And it is this response that activates the blessings, protection, and divine intervention that the Lord has already planned in your favor. Furthermore, the coming of a deceased family member as a messenger should inspire you to reflect on your relationships, to seek forgiveness where there has been conflict, to express gratitude for the love that has been shared, and to align your life more closely with the values and spiritual truths that God has set forth. For these visitations are not merely warnings, they are opportunities for transformation, for deep spiritual awakening, and for embracing a level of faith that transcends fear, doubt, and the distractions of the temporal world. And in doing so, you honor both the life of the one who has passed and the Creator who orchestrates all things for your good. Do not be afraid if the messages seem intense, urgent, or overwhelming. For God's messenger in the form of your departed loved one is not there to bring distress, but to catalyze a response that will protect you from hidden dangers, redirect you from decisions that may lead to loss, and strengthen you to walk boldly in the purpose that has been uniquely assigned to your life. And remember that the timing of these visitations is perfect, even if it appears sudden or unexpected, for God's hand is always at work, positioning everything for maximum impact, learning, and blessing. And your responsibility is to respond with faith, prayer, and an unwavering trust that the guidance you receive is from the Lord Himself. It is also crucial to recognize that the warning may not always be literal. Sometimes it manifests as guidance on relationships, financial decisions, health matters, or spiritual choices. And the presence of the departed family member serves as a reminder that life is fragile, that every action has consequences, and that God uses every tool at His disposal, even the voices of those who have passed, to communicate His will and ensure that you are protected, nurtured, and led into a life of blessing, abundance, and divine purpose. And as you listen carefully and act obediently, you will notice doors opening, clarity arriving, and a deep sense of peace settling into your heart that surpasses human understanding. As the visitation continues, pay attention to the emotions, thoughts, and insights that arise within you, for these are often the channels through which God speaks, using your memory, your intuition, and your spiritual sensitivity to convey warnings, instructions, and blessings. And do not allow fear, doubt, or skepticism to cloud your judgment, for the spiritual world is real, and God's messages, when delivered through the presence of those who have passed, are among the most powerful, urgent, and loving forms of divine guidance available to you, designed to protect your soul, secure your path, and awaken your spirit to a higher level of faith, trust, and obedience. Finally, my beloved child, understand that these encounters are not meant to be a source of superstition, but a call to spiritual readiness, a reminder of the eternal reality beyond the physical, and an invitation to deepen your relationship with God, who uses the familiar faces of your loved ones to speak to your heart, to deliver warnings that are timely, and to ensure that your life continues along the path of righteousness, protection, and divine favor. And if you take the time to listen, pray, discern, and act in alignment with the messages received, you will find not only guidance and protection, but a renewed sense of hope, faith, and purpose that will sustain you through every challenge, every uncertainty, and every blessing that is about to unfold in your life. Therefore, do not ignore the signs, the whispers, or the visions, and do not dismiss the presence of those who have passed as mere coincidence or imagination, for the God of heaven is speaking through them, warning you, guiding you, and preparing you for a future filled with peace, protection, and extraordinary blessings. And as you embrace this divine communication with faith, obedience, and trust, you will witness miracles, experience protection from harm, and understand truths that would otherwise remain hidden. And in doing so, you will walk with assurance, confidence, and unwavering faith, knowing that God's love is active, His plan is perfect, and that even from beyond the veil of death, He is sending what is most needed to ensure your life unfolds according to His perfect will, timing, and glory. And as we continue unfolding this extraordinary message, imagine the way your heart beats faster when you hear the words, "Someone from your family who has passed away is coming," because in that very phrase there is both a shiver of mystery and a wave of comfort, since it suggests that the veil between the living and the departed is thinner than we think, and that perhaps God Himself, in His divine wisdom, is allowing a moment of reunion or a message carried by one who once walked with you, laughed with you, shared meals with you, and whose absence left behind an emptiness that no earthly treasure could fill. And when such a message is whispered, it is not merely for curiosity, it is for preparation, for awakening, for turning your heart toward the eternal reality that stretches beyond death. This is not about haunting shadows or frightening apparitions, because when God permits such encounters, they are not wrapped in darkness, but in light, not clothed in fear, but in love. And the one who comes does not come on their own authority, but as a messenger allowed by heaven, carrying words that are meant to redirect your life, protect your soul, or awaken your spirit from a slumber you did not even realize you had fallen into. And so the warning is great, because it reminds you that life on earth is fleeting, that time is precious, and that your choices echo into eternity far more loudly than you can currently perceive with your limited human senses. Think of how often you have felt a presence when no one was there, or perhaps smelled a familiar fragrance like your grandmother's cooking, your father's cologne, your mother's favorite flowers, and wondered if you were only imagining it. And yet the truth is that such experiences are often the fingerprints of heaven brushing lightly against your reality, reminding you that the people you loved have not ceased to exist, but have only stepped into a realm your eyes cannot see. And if today's message is reaching you, it means that one of them, chosen by divine purpose, is about to step across the boundary in some form, whether in a dream, in a whisper of conscience, in a sudden vision, or in a sense of overwhelming peace that wraps you when you least expect it. And so the big warning is not to terrify you, but to ready you. Because when a soul from your family who has passed away is sent back with a message, it is not for trivial reasons, it is not for entertainment, and it is not a random occurrence. Rather, it is because there is something urgent, something you must know, something that cannot wait for sermons or books or lectures, something that comes directly from God, carried through one you already love and trust.
because God knows that their presence will pierce your heart far more deeply than the words of a stranger could ever do.
And as we move deeper into this revelation, let us not dismiss lightly the possibility that God, in His unfathomable wisdom, chooses the very people we once leaned on in this earthly life to be the vessel through which He speaks to us even after death, because He understands that your heart will be more open to the guidance, the warning, and the message if it comes from the lips, the memory, or the presence of someone who once shared your bloodline, someone who once sat with you at the table, someone who once held you when you cried, someone whose absence created a wound that time could never fully close. And so, when such a person is permitted to appear, whether in the quiet of the night, or in the stillness of a dream, or in a sudden burst of clarity that overtakes you in the middle of an ordinary day, you must understand that this is not random, this is not accidental, this is not a hallucination of your mind, but rather it is the orchestration of heaven, designed with precision, timed with purpose, and filled with urgency, because the message you are about to receive carries weight beyond what your eyes can measure and beyond what your ears can fully comprehend. It is important to realize that in the biblical record there are countless moments where the boundary between the living and the unseen is crossed with intention and meaning. For example, when Moses and Elijah appeared with Jesus on the mountain of transfiguration, it was not to entertain, but to strengthen and to confirm divine purpose. And in the same way, when Samuel appeared to deliver a stern warning to King Saul, it was not to comfort, but to confront him with the seriousness of disobedience. And so too, when a family member is allowed to return in some form, whether visible or invisible, whether through dream or vision, the message is not to stir your curiosity, but to stir your soul awake, to warn you of something approaching, to prepare you for what is to come, and to remind you that you cannot keep walking through life ignoring the eternal reality of God's voice. And perhaps you are wondering why God would choose this path. Why not thunder from the sky? Why not write in flames upon the wall? Why not send an angel clothed in radiant light? And the answer lies in the tenderness of His design, because He knows that if He were to thunder from the heavens, your fear would overwhelm you. And if He were to send a celestial being, your mind might collapse in awe. But when He chooses the face of your mother, the smile of your father, the presence of your sibling, or the voice of your grandparent, He chooses love as the doorway through which the message enters, because love is the one language you cannot deny, the one force you cannot resist, and the one bond that even death cannot sever. Therefore, the big warning is this: prepare yourself, not with dread, but with humility, not with terror, but with reverence. Because when you encounter the presence of someone from your family who has passed away, you are not to treat it lightly. You are not to brush it aside as coincidence. You are not to bury it under the noise of daily life. For such a visitation is a holy interruption, a divine signal that something in your journey must be corrected, or perhaps a danger is approaching that only God sees, or maybe an opportunity is near that you might miss if you are not spiritually awake. And so the one who comes carries a word, and that word is both a warning and a gift. For it is meant to rescue you from paths that lead to destruction and to redirect your steps toward the light of God's will.